Okay, so this is my Debian dual boot demonstration part 2. Last we left this, the system that I wanted to prove was still capable of dual booting was running through NTFS check disk. It validated the health of that hard drive, probably did a little fixing, and now, as you can see, I still boot Windows 7 Pro. Granted that it is 7 Pro and it's only got 2 gigs of RAM, it doesn't work all that well. But now I have space. So what I can do now is plug my USB media back in, reboot, um, and continue. Now, of course, because we're dealing with Windows and modern Windows, like Linux, does not really tolerate rough reboots all that well. Do everything by the numbers. Shut it down gracefully, etc., etc. And here, see, it detected my USB key. It knows it's a boot disk. I picked the same image that you would have been, the 32-bit version of the same image you would have used for your VMs in class, the XCFE image, because it's slightly bigger and has less to download. But anyway, I am going to reboot this, go start, restart. Now, one of the things that I did before this started was I got into the BIOS and gave myself about a 10-second delay. If you're doing this on whatever bare metal platform you're doing this on, make sure you understand how to get into the BIOS. If necessary, look at the part number, look at all of that, do the research, get into the BIOS, make sure you can take full control of the physical hardware. And so it's going to boot to, let's see, there I got my boot screen. In my case, the key that I want for the boot order or the boot menu, depending on how the nomenclature, is F9. This is an old Phoenix BIOS. This BIOS is so old, there is no UEFI versus legacy concept. So I'm going to boot to my USB hard drive again, hit enter, and go. I'll have to walk through, I'll have to make some of the same choices I made last time. See, and I've got my graphical install because that's what I want. But if you have to do this, just deal with the fact that you may have to put some information in twice. Let me see, and here we go. So rather than show you that again, I'm going to run through it. I'm going to pause this here, run through this right quick, and get us back to that hard drive partitioning screen to show you what it looks like after you've made some open space. Now, so I'm going to make some, I'm going to get back to where we were, and hold on, I'm going to pause this and then I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. I'm back up to the portion of the installation process where Anaconda hands things control off to Partman, and I now see this. Guided use the largest continuous space. Guided use the entire disk. Use entire disk, set up LVM, encrypted LVM, or manual. What I'm actually going to do, because I do want to leave some of this space open for potentially a second, or even a third dual boot option, say if I put Kali in, or if I put BlackArch in, etc., is I'm going to go with manual. And now I have options. I know it looks backwards. Let me see if hold on. Let me see if I can't flip this for y'all. So let me point this way. See? Okay, and it's backwards. I apologize for the backwardsness. But what I'm going to do, this option right here, I've got 98 gigs of free space. But I'm not going to use all of that. Enter. I want to create a new partition, but I'm going to give it about 33%, because my goal is, and so 33% of 98 would be, I'm guessing, 30, 31 gigs. So no, you could give it an absolute size. You could give it a percentage because my plan is to cut this partition into slices, and then maybe drop in a version of Kali behind this one, and maybe a version of the Network Security Toolkit or Black Arch behind it. And it is going to be a logical partition. And I'm going to set it at the beginning. And I am going to, okay, so I've got some options I have to choose, and I'm going to hit continue. And I'm going to use ext4. Because I'm doing this the slow way, I can choose a lot of things. The journaling file, whether with the format, JFS, XFS, btree, FAT16, FAT32, swap, etc. So I hit continue again, hit continue, continue. Okay. Oh, and I need to choose done setting up the partition. Enter. And that gives me 32 gigs with 66 gigs left. What I've done is I had SDA1 and SDA2. Actually, SDA1, SDA2, and SDA3. Now I have an SDA5 as well, with a possibility for SDA6 and 7 further on down the line. So you may, if you have a dual boot configuration with multiple flavors of Linux running, coexisting rather, you may actually see hints of the other flavors of Linux that are available to you. Because the Linux that say running the Debian in SDA5 may be able to see Kali installed into SDA6 or Black Arch installed into SDA7, etc. So I'm going to go through, choose finish partitioning and write disk changes to disk. I have to have some swap space. That's fine. And I do want to go back to the partitioning menu. And I want to create a new partition. And I'm going to give it 5 gigs worth of space, because 5 gigs is plenty for swap. And I'm going to put it at the end of the drive. Change my mount point. Actually go back. I'm going to make it swap. Because if you're creating the swap space manually, you have to tell it manually, this is swap. Done setting up the partition. So I've got a 5 gig swap, 30 gigs of ext4 for my Debian. That'll still leave me approximately 30 gigs for each of the other 2 dual boots once I get those rolling. And continue. Done setting up the partition. Finish partition. Now, one bit of shenanigans I may be able to pull off is once I start setting up dual boots, because you're not going to run 2 different flavors of Linux simultaneously. Once I have this swap partition set, I can point all 3 of them at it, so I don't have to have 3 useless, 3 swap partitions, only one of which is active at any given time. And now is installing the base system, and I'm going to pause again, because as we know, that takes a while. Okay, I'm back again. It has gotten past the loading of the software. I may not have made quite all the choices I meant to have made because I was multitasking. This is why you install things like Synaptic right off the bat, so that if you accidentally installed, say, the print server that you didn't want, or the wrong desktop, you can use the task options in Synaptic to rip all that back out again. So let me show you, which we install the grub bootloader. And if you really have to pay attention to what you're doing when you're doing a dual boot configuration like this. You want to make sure that grub knows about everything so it can include things. So let me show you that. I know it's backwards. I'm sorry about that. So notice that it is found Windows Vista. Trust me, it's backwards, but it has found Vista. So I am going to install grub to the MBR. Um, and it has actually found two hard drives. So it's got you've got to ask, you got to let it know which one. In this case, I see the 120 gig Hitachi hard drive and the 16 gig Kingston boot media. I definitely don't want to install to the boot media. So I'm going to pick dev SDA. And it's thinking about that. And of course, the next acid test, once it gets all this done, is to see whether I pull the boot media out and it reloads again. Does grub slide in ahead of the Windows boot menu? With a dual boot configuration, you'll have grub and its boot menu. And if you choose Windows, then grub will hand off to the Windows bootloader. The Windows bootloader will come up, not ever really knowing that it doesn't have a monopoly on the bare metal. So I'll be right back. It is finishing the installation now. It is installing, setting up my usernames and my passwords. This is another write everything down reason, so you can work your plan even if your plan is interrupted. So it's time to boot the system. Oh, hold on. And now I click the continue button, and I'm going to pause again because I want to see this work. I want to show you that this works. So it's booting again. It has about a 10-second delay now. Hopefully it will go fast enough. And glory hallelujah, I see the grub. And it also sees Windows 7. So I'm going to choose Debian Linux. And boom. It is thinking, and I believe I have successfully dual booted this system. Now, I've only started setting this thing up as a useful system. I've got a whole bunch of stuff to do. The kind of stuff, work through the kind of laundry list you would work through for class. Your text editor, CURL, Synaptic, apt-get get update, etc., etc., etc. But it's working. And I might do a part 3 to discuss how this works. But so far, so good. Here I am with the XCAFE desktop, my login, and yay. So I might be making more videos, demo videos of other install processes, Ubuntu, desktop and server, Kali, etc. We'll see how that goes over the next couple of days. It's important to play everything by ear and be flexible right now because no one knows what tomorrow holds. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.